And so again, this is our original plan was. It's okay. It doesn't look like it's bad. Are you uncomfortable? Do you want to go back? I don't know if there's anything we can do. You can use my phone. All right. So this is not originally what I had planned for today, but since we can't go outside, we're going to do this instead. And what I hope is that this gives you an opportunity to learn to recognize and identify some of the plants that I don't think any of you has studied yet, and also learn a little bit of ecological sort of scientific information about them. So for the rest of the period, we're going to work on the plant portfolio. And the plant portfolio is going to be really straightforward. For 7 of the plants that we're looking at, which are all listed in the document that's posted to Canvas, I'm going to ask you to find a picture online, look up some additional information, and make a slide on Google Slides for each of these plants. There's 7 of them, so you're going to make 7 slides, 1 for each of these plants. And if you took biology from me or Mr. Barron at some point in the last few years, these plants weren't on the list. So you may have done a plant portfolio already. I know some of you have. Raise your hand if you did a plant portfolio in the last few years. Anybody who had biology with me did this already, yeah. But, and you can start with that one if you have it. You don't have to do the old plants, but if you have it and you want to just add on to it, you're welcome to do that. If you weren't in a biology class and you don't have your own plant portfolio already, that's okay. You'll just start with Douglas fir and work your way down through the list. And the information that you're going to put on each slide is the common name and the scientific name, which you can just copy and paste from here. So it should be spelled right and it should be formatted right, because you can literally copy and paste it from this document. And then find a picture of the plant, and you'll need to cite your picture, and I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a second. And the picture should have what is shown over here on the right. So when you look at hawthorn, you need to find a picture that shows the leaves and branches of hawthorn. And for Douglas fir, you need to find a branch with the cone, find a picture of the branch with the cone. If you can't find if there's 2 things like leaves and berries, and you can't find them together, it's okay to find 2 pictures, and one with the cone and one with the branches. And you need to have at least 1 image. If you want to put more, you're welcome to do that. And then there should be some information about the plant. The first piece of information should be whether the plant is native or non-native. Native plants are ones that have been growing here for hundreds or thousands of years. If they were transplanted here by humans, it happened many centuries ago. Non-native plants are ones that were brought here within the last few hundred years by European Americans or other immigrants to this area. So they were not plants that were being utilized by Native Americans prior to Western contact. And non-native is also known as introduced, so you might see that as you're doing research. You might see that it's an introduced plant, and that means non-native. And then I want you to, and this is where things can potentially be kind of fun and also kind of challenging. I want you to find an interaction between that plant and an organism. And if you can find something real, which I think you'll be able to, then I want you to tell me about it. Tell me the organism that interacts with this plant, and tell me what that interaction looks like, what the nature of the interaction is. If you can't find anything, you dig and dig and dig, and you're like, I don't know what interacts with this plant, then what I want you to do is I want you to come up with something that sounds plausible, and I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. And then the last thing that I want you to do is I want you to write a question. And the question needs to be a scientific question. Scientific questions are ones where you could collect data and use the data to answer the question. So it's not just a question like, is this a pretty plant, or do lots of people grow this in their yards? It's a question that gets at some sort of scientific, factual information about the plant. Will it grow in shaded areas? Does this plant have any toxicity to insects or small mammals? The kinds of things that you could actually do a scientific study, collect data, and then use that data to answer your question. There are a couple of websites. I'm not going to show you these. If you want to use them and you need some help, let me know. They're not that hard to navigate, but you have to look up the plants by name, and so if you've got it set to the scientific name, then you have to type in the scientific name. If you've got it set to the common name, then you have to type in the right common name. I can help you. You don't have to use these websites. You'd be able to find these plants just in Google and other websites as well. I have an example slide. So I'm going to go through that real quick just so everybody can see what each of your slides should look like. And also, you're welcome to use this as a template, which means you can actually start with this and then replace the common name and the scientific name in this slide. Tell me if it's native or non-native. Put your own pictures in there. You can just use this and then make a copy of it and do it again and do it again and do it again. So if you end up with 7 slides that are all laid out just like this, that's acceptable, as long as your slides are for the 7 plants that are listed in the document and then you've done the legwork to find the information. So here's where all the stuff that I just said shows up. I've got the common name and the scientific name. I've identified that it's non-native to the Willamette Valley. And then I have 3 pictures. You don't have to have 3 pictures, but you have to have at least one that shows the specific part of the plant that's listed. And then see how I just said photo from, and then I put the website. For what we're doing now, that's fine. That's good enough. So photo from Shutterstock, photo from gardensonline.com. This one, there's no citation, because I took this picture. I took this was in a neighbor's yard, and I took it on a walk several years ago. So you don't have to cite it if you already have a picture that you took of something. And then I have my interaction here, and for this sample slide, I pretended that I couldn't find any information about interactions with this plant. So instead, I came up with something that I thought was plausible. This is a brightly colored flower, and I bet you that bumblebees in particular, might pollinate this plant. And that led me directly to my scientific question, which is, do the markings on this plant attract pollinators? And you can see how that's a scientific question, because you could design a scientific study that might answer that. Like I could mask the plant. I could put tape or paint over those colors and see if it still attracts as many pollinators. And I could use that as a way to answer this question. If the pollinators can't see the markings and they still come and pollinate the flower, then I guess they don't really attract pollinators. But if I were to paint these flowers, these petals, dark and no pollinators came, then that would be a pretty good sign that the markings on this plant do attract pollinators. Okay. So we have about 45 minutes. You have 7 plants. This is about 5 or 6 minutes per plant. What I want to see and hear is collaboration. Not, I'll do this plant, you do this plant, but, oh, did you find any cool interactions for this one? Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Okay, well, let's look that up a little bit more. I want you to be learning from each other in your communication. But each of you is going to create your own slides, and each of you should have 7 slides, one for each of the plants that are listed. And if you need to take a break before you get started, that's fine. I'll just ask that you be back in about 5 minutes, so at like 12:52 or so. Does anybody have any questions before we get rolling? Okay. If you have work to turn in, take pictures of it if you haven't already, And then give me those assignments on paper and I'll score them in interim right now. So at the end of this class period, everybody's grade should be totally up to date.